First story is titled, Am I the a-hole for giving one daughter's share of the college fund to her sister for grad school after she insisted multiple times that she never wanted to go, and telling her she missed her chance and now she changed her mind? I have two adult daughters who are 18 months apart in age. I've been binge watching The Crown, so let's call them Elizabeth, 33, and Margaret, 32. Thanks to a combination of saving and money my husband inherited, we had college funds for them. We told both daughters growing up that we had enough saved for them to get an undergraduate degree debt-free, within reason. We made it clear that we couldn't afford them to go to NYU and put them up in an apartment in Manhattan, but they could go to an in-state school without worrying about loans. Elizabeth was always very studious and got a 75% scholarship to Berkeley. We were able to pay for it, as the scholarship made it comparable to paying for an in-state school. We also went halves with her in the cost of doing a 6-week study abroad trip to Europe that gave degree credit. Margaret was always far less studious and did what she had to do to get by in high school and not an iota more. She chose not to go to college and had no interest in it for years. Margaret has been working in bars and clubs for years and has gotten by fine. She also took some working holiday/backpacking trips abroad. Elizabeth graduated and got a job she was happy with in her field. A few years after graduation, she wanted to do a master's that would enhance her career prospects. We still had Margaret's share of the money. I asked then 28-year-old Margaret if she still had no college plans. Even after I explained I was simply asking to make sure she still wanted to go to college before I gave what was left in the account to Elizabeth for her grad school, Margaret got annoyed about how I'm sick of being asked about college. What part of that do people not understand? We barely ask her, but I know she fielded the question a lot from extended family and with people she met in life. So, we gave it to Elizabeth, who went to/graduated from Stanford with a combination of scholarship/grants and a college fund. 4 years later, Margaret wants the money to go to college and asked us to pay for her. She absolutely lost it when we reminded her she said she didn't need it and we gave it to Elizabeth. I think the pandemic has shaken her and she's realized she needs a real career, as she is now an unemployed 32-year-old bartender in the coronavirus era, and most of her former let's go work/party in Australia for 12 months friends are settling down and having kids. My husband and I simply can't afford to pay for Margaret to go to college now, unless we hand over a huge chunk of our retirement savings and work for many more years than planned. My husband has struggled with a lack of energy since recovering from cancer 3 years ago, so may well need to retire early. I'm also not convinced she has the motivation to follow through all the way to graduation. Am I the a-hole for telling her that we gave her 10 years to take up the option of paying for college? She said repeatedly she didn't want it, and we double-checked before Elizabeth got it. So, she needs to work it out for herself if she wants to go. Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. She's a grown adult at this point. And as a grown adult, wouldn't she have an easier time getting financial aid since she wouldn't have to disclose her family's income? Not the a-hole. You gave her many opportunities, including letting her know about shifting the money to her sister's grad school if she didn't want to go to college. She made her decision, free of outside pressure. Yes, and she's 32. I'm not saying a 32-year-old can't go to the college. She was given opportunity to study at a young age, but she didn't take it. Her decision and her choice. But now she's 32 and no one else is responsible for her but herself. If she's that keen, she should take a loan, not the a-hole. I'm 31 and recently finished a master's. While tuition is cheaper here and I got some low-interest loans to help, at no point did I consider it reasonable to ask my parents to help me out with tuition. Not the a-hole. If it had been just a year or two after high school when you asked her if her decision was final, I'd say it is a bit harsh, especially because I think the pressure put on kids to decide what to do with their whole lives when they are still teenagers is insane. But she was 28 when you asked if her choice was final and she said yes. That's an adult with a few years of life experience under her belt. This, as far as I know, one is usually around 18 when one graduates high school, correct? That means Opie gave her 10 whole years to change her mind, and then only asked for plans, not even set a deadline to be enrolled somewhere or something. And she was informed that the money would go to her sister's education. She still refused. That was her choice that she now has to live with. Now for the next story. Am I the a-hole for only paying for my stepdaughter's college? I, 50 male, have 5 daughters. 4 of which, Anna, 24 female, Allie, 22 female, Alex, 20 female, and Angela, 17 female, are biologically mine. I also have a stepdaughter who is 17 female, Sarah, and we plan on having an official adoption when she's 18. My bio daughters live with their mother, and I had weekend visitations, so I'm not as close to them as I am to my stepdaughter. Here's the issue at hand. I only plan on paying for Sarah's university. My bio daughter's mother is low income, so they qualify for student loans and student aid. Sarah, however, does not, because we have a good income, lower middle class. It's too early now to know what scholarships she will get. Despite our good income, between child support and legal fees for Sarah's custody, we are not as high income as we appear on paper. We did not have the means to start a university fund for Sarah, but we plan on reallocating our finances, taking extra hours, and possibly taking out a loan in our name if we need to, in order to pay for Sarah's university, and then having Sarah pay us back. Plus, Sarah started saving for university when she started working. Angela called me up the other day, since she is also researching and making plans for uni, and asked about financial aid from us. I explained that she will qualify for loans, as did her sisters, and that we can't/won't help her pay. This has since caused a lot of issues. Now all my bio daughters are angry at me for not supporting them. I have loaned them money before, so this isn't true, and for favoring my stepdaughter. I explained to them about them qualifying for loans and told them how much I paid over the years in child support, and it isn't my fault their mother didn't handle the money properly. Also, we are not legally on the hook for paying for post-secondary in regards to child support. I'm not sure if I'm the a-hole here. Reasonably, we can't afford to pay for both Angela and Sarah. Am I the a-hole? Edits for clarification. To clarify, 3 out of 5 of my daughters have already been to college. 1 graduated. 1 got pregnant and dropped out, the other 1 failed and dropped out. That part is kinda said and done, although they are still angry. It's only Angela and Sarah who haven't gone to school yet. Right now, they're researching/applying. The money that we will be earning from working overtime/tightening finances isn't going to be a life-altering amount. The major plan is to take out a loan for Sarah and have her pay us back. I realized the wording on the title was bad. Secondly, you all are accusing me of doing the bare minimum by paying child support and explaining child support couldn't pay for university. Read some of my comments where I outline this in detail. To everyone telling me in the comments and in PMs to just pay for college for all of them, why didn't you set up a college fund, etc.? If I could have, I would have. I can't make money materialize. My wife is not a new wife, and Sarah isn't a new kid. I've been married for 15 years and raised Sarah since she was a toddler. We tried to raise them all as sisters as best we could. And now for the top comments. Info. Do please tell us how much money you paid to cover 4 children's upbringing while also providing enough for your half of a university fund for all 4 children. Oh, also, I only plan on paying for Sarah's university. My bio daughter's mother is low income, so they qualify for student loans. So your stepdaughter gets a fully paid education and your daughter gets a bunch of debt? My bio daughters live with their mother and I had weekend visitations, so I am not as close to them as I am to my stepdaughter. Did you even try? You can forge a decent relationship with people you see every weekend, as long as you care to do so. I'm 100% sure you're the a-hole here, but more info would be good. You're the a-hole. Curious to know if OP actually knows how much a child costs, to even multiply it by 4. Must be hard to calculate from this middle income position higher than everyone else, huh? I paid a very large portion of my income over the years. I don't mind that part. Their mother, on the other hand, was constantly wearing designer clothing and getting food from restaurants just for her, while my daughters wore hand-me-downs and ate junk food for supper. I often still had to buy my children stuff, example, laptops for school, new clothing, food for lunch, etc. My ex lived in housing, so I know she had low expenses. I tried going to court to get stipulations on the money and failed. You're right that it would not have covered a university fund for all of them, but there definitely could have been a small portion put away. I don't want any of my children to have debt, but Sarah does not qualify for any assistance other than what she might earn from scholarships. If we don't help Sarah with her university, she might not be able to attend, unlike Angela. And I did try, but seeing my daughters every weekend is not the same as living together, especially because of the long driving distance, and when they got older, they started not wanting to visit as often. We also only have a 3-bedroom house, plus a basement, whereas they had their own bedrooms at home. You're the a-hole. I'll start by saying I don't think any kid is entitled to have their tuition paid by their parents. But you are showing favoritism for your stepdaughter. Just because your daughters can qualify for loans, they are still financially on the hook to pay those back. Your stepdaughter could technically get loans to cover her schooling as well, yet you are opting to help her and not your other children. Also, child support isn't necessarily to be saved for college expenses. It costs a lot of money to raise children, especially 4 of them. And the day-to-day cost of living expenses is what child support should be used for. That was a huge a-hole move to try and throw their mom under the bus in this situation. Your logic is that your bio-daughter can take out loans because she's low income, and you're giving your stepdaughter help because she's higher income? You're the a-hole. To clarify, I meant my bio-daughter gets student loans from the government. I'm trying not to give out too much info, to help out low-income families. Because of our income bracket, my stepdaughter doesn't qualify for anything like that. But we are not actually as high income as we appear on paper. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for guilt-tripping my dad for cutting me and my younger sister out of his will? My dad, 67 male, and I, 24 female, are very close and always have been. He is a good-hearted, generous, kind person who has dedicated his life and career to helping people. I recently found out that he adjusted his will, such that I and my younger sister, 22 female, are not included as beneficiary in any way. Instead, our older brother Nate, 45 male, will get everything. He says that this is solely because he thinks my sister and I can take care of ourselves, but Nate can't. For some greater context, my dad has fully financially supported Nate for his entire life. He spends his time traveling around, painting. I think in his ideal world, he would be a professional painter, and dating lots of women. He's never had a job as far as I'm aware. He has recurring health issues stemming from an accident when he was a young adult, and he is bipolar. He's never required in-home care of any kind, but he has been intermittently in the hospital throughout my lifetime, maybe an average of once every couple of years for several days at a time. I've never visited him in the hospital though, nor has my dad, I believe, because he's almost always traveling outside of the US. Nate and I didn't grow up together because of the age difference, and I do not like him. He's always been a condescending jerk to me, my sister, and almost everyone, and his financial relationship with my father has always seemed manipulative to me. When my dad told me about the changes to his will, I started crying. Part of it was shock/surprise, but yes, if I'm being brutally honest with myself about the type of person I am, and if I'm being transparent with you all, I had always had an expectation in my mind that when my dad died, both of my siblings and I would all receive a sizable inheritance. For context, as per Google, my dad would fall somewhat above upper middle class by US income standards. And it almost felt like an injustice that I had always been a great daughter and very close to my dad, but that I was being cut out of the will so that everything could go to my brother, who's always been kind of a jerk. So I cried. Then I asked my dad if we could stop talking about it. That was a few days ago, and we haven't talked since. My partner says I shouldn't be reacting this way, that I should call my dad and apologize for guilt-tripping him just for wanting to take care of someone who needs it more than I do. I have a moderately successful career so far. For what it's worth, I'm not in any way planning to cut off contact with my dad, spend less time with him, or convince him to change his will back. I won't even bring it up. This is solely backward-looking to whether I was an a-hole when I cried and shut down the conversation. I know I mentioned before I'm really biased about Nate, so please give it to me straight if I'm clearly a greedy a-hole here. Now let's read the top judgment for this post. Not the a-hole, and honestly, your dad does suck for cutting you and your sister out. Yes, it's his money, but your brother obviously just expects it from him. It's a slap in the face. I would reconsider my relationship with my father. Not the a-hole for your reaction. Who wouldn't be upset if they found out their parent cut them out of the will completely in favor of someone else? Once you've both had time to calm down and process this, it may be a good idea to talk about it with dad, if only to give you a chance to tell him how you feel and why about what is done. Then you can move forward. I agree with all this for sure. Not the a-hole. If he really cared about Nate, he'd set up a dedicated insurance policy outside of his regular wealth to fund for his needs, not cut off the rest of his family. It would be cheaper too than handing someone an estate to deal with. Not the a-hole. I think it would be a normal reaction to be hurt by being cut out of a will for your other sibling for basically no reason. And that's the end of this video, folks. As always, leave a comment and hit like and subscribe. And if you want more of this content, turn your notification on to get updated on the latest videos. I'll catch you in the next one. Stay safe.